Grazie per l'applauso. Sono nervosissimo. Spero che voi siete anche emozionatissimi di vedere. Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to do this talk in Italian, and they didn't take me because it was voted English. So I have to do this in English. Well, I do this in English. I'm happy to do this in English. So if you want to look at the slides, I think it's fine. But if you want to watch this on your computer, you can go to this URL, and we'll just open this slide, and we'll synchronously walk you through the slides as I talk. Okay. Take your seats with you, fasten your seat belts. Okay, to start with, site packages. Who knows where the site packages are installed on your system? Yeah, you guys can help me? Okay. Where is it? It depends. Okay. So how do you find it out? Okay. Okay. So it's too complicated to explain. So what does PEP 20 say? If it's too difficult to explain, it's probably a bad idea. Okay, so because we have Guido von Rossum, he has given us a module. So there's an app for that. And it's called the Site Packages app. It's unsurprisingly, it's called Site. So you can do kind of Python minus M site. So it shows you the site packages. And interestingly, there are two site packages. So one is the system, well, there are a few of them. And one is the user base. So when you say user site, you get the one that is the user site packages location. So what is the user site packages location? Who knows that? What is this good for? Why do we have two? Okay, once again, retry. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I didn't understand it. But I think I know what you mean. Yeah, okay. So this is for the user, and this other is for the system, right? So these are actually it's here, no, it's a local, it's a user log Python 7. If I have this, I'm sorry. Sorry, Huida. I have to do this and to do that. Okay, really, yeah. Actually, I prefer Python 3. So, yeah, so you can here you can install without root access, and if you don't use a virtual environment for your personal setup, I would install things like pip install pycon 9 minus user, and then it installs pycon 9 if it exists. Oh, thank God it didn't exist, and mess up my system. Okay, that's it. So it is a question that you get asked that is very popular actually, and I'll leave this open for later. And if you didn't know this, so memorize it because it's something you get asked frequently, and if you know where to answer this on Stack Overflow, oh, it's here. Oh, I have this. I think it's here. Oh yeah, this is one of my favorite ones. So if you want a little bit of dopamine, you have to answer this question on Stack Overflow, and then you get a little bit of dopamine 2 or 3 shots a week. So that is cool. All right. Good. Yeah. Right, so now for something else. Well, wait, just let me move the cursor away. Yeah. So who am I? My name is Peter Bittner. I am a developer of people, companies, and code. I run Painless Software and a couple of open, free, and open source projects. I've listed them here, and I've got a few more. And I've worked with a couple of very nice companies. A few of them I have here as the logos. And what I will do today is I'll walk you through continuous delivery, but a different aspect of continuous delivery, something that probably a few only talk about, and to give you an intro of what continuous delivery is, so we are all on the same page. I will give you a quick jump into the cold water, and then I will just tell you the actual content of the talk. So we will talk about how to apply continuous delivery to more than just your servers. So it's not all about just the servers. So we can use this also for our development environment, actually. And in the end, if it works out and Demo God loves us, then I'll do 2 demos, and I'll share with you 2 repositories that you can also use and take home. Right. Any questions before we start? You can always interrupt me, so if it's not too long, so that's fine. Okay. Good. Anybody know what continuous delivery is actually? Any idea? I'm not going to let you down like again. So yeah, I'm actually talking about the definition of Jez Humble. He is someone who wrote a book in 2010 about continuous delivery. He summarizes the concepts that were already there, basically. It's a lot about automation. It's a lot about putting the customer in focus, and that was what the definition looks like, approximately. It's a set of practices and principles for building, testing, and releasing software faster and more frequently. And Jez Humble actually adds, he also adds for more reliably, for more consistent state. Oh, I'm sorry, I just messed it up. But anyway, it's releasing software more frequently, stable software, and that is a very important aspect of continuous delivery, to put the release schedule out of the hands of developers and into the hands of business. And this is probably something you have not heard so much if you haven't been to the talk of mine of last year. But this is very important because, the traditional deployment looks like your client asks you, oh, can you deploy this tomorrow at 9 o'clock when I'm in the office, so when something goes wrong, I can give you directly feedback, right? And you say, okay, well, and then when you arrive late, you have the deployment later, and so on. So you are in power. So someone asks you for a feature, they pay you, and then they have to ask you, please, can you deploy? And Jez Humble says it should be the other way around. If they pay you, you just do your work, and then they can do their push-button deployment themselves. That's what it should look like. Okay, it's not. All right. There we go. Sorry, didn't press the button. Well. Yeah, so continuous delivery, the main puzzle piece in continuous delivery, just to give you a quick overview, is a CI pipeline. So basically what it does is it walks you from the beginning to the end. So here you would commit something. If you want, you can do a feature branch. The blue arrows are when there's human interaction. So we push some code, and it goes to the build server. The build server runs your tests. If it fails, just stops the pipeline, and then you have to go back and fix the thing. You push again, you commit again, push again, whatever. And if it works out, then you open a merge request or a pull request. And then what is created, what we now can create, thanks to the advancement of technology, containerization, we can create a system that is equivalent to the future production system, and something that GitLab added last year, by the way, and they call it review system. They added it after my talk, actually, but I think they wrote it before. And and then there is this review system out there, and you can tell the client, here's a link. Actually, it's posted. It should be posted then directly in the user story, and your customer just clicks on the link, reviews your changes, and says, wow, that's cool. That's exactly how I wanted it, and then presses the button, and then it goes directly in production. And the cool thing is, it goes directly in production. You don't waste time. You don't need a release manager. You don't need anything. And it just works because you have reviewed, I mean, your client has reviewed the system as it will go live. Okay. Well, what techniques do we have in continuous delivery? Testing, of course. So whatever type of testing you do, test-driven development, behavior-driven development. If you want to do functional testing, you can use Selenium or something else. But whatever testing you do, you don't even need to do test-driven development. It's just important that you have tests. Why? Why is it important that you have tests? Oh, it's on the slides. When you don't have it, you can verify that things don't break, that your changes don't break the current content, the current system. You have no way of safeguarding you against regression. You have no safety net against changes that would take down your whole the application you write. So when you introduce a change and it takes down the shop of a huge customer, they will lose thousands of euros in the hour. So we want to avoid that, and continuous delivery helps with that. Okay, so there's one thing also I would like to add. For testing, a very common question is, what type of test should I write? And the answer is not unit tests or behavior-driven BDD tests or TDD, whatever. The answer is, write the test first that covers most of your risk, because tests are there to cover your risk. And if your risk is that your client is not happy and they don't pay you, I would first cover that risk so I get paid, and afterwards I deal with technical issues. Okay? So that would mean, for example, you write a BDD test if it's maybe for a website or REST API or so that drives the interface. Where if you have a greater risk that you can cover with unit tests, you go for unit tests. All right. Then we have containers, environments. Containers are actually just the advancement of environments in general, and you would just create these environments that should have feature parity across them with sorry, my brain. Oh my gosh. Well, configuration management software. I'm sorry. So if you know Puppet, Chef, Ansible, this is configuration management software. Or you use Docker directly. So you create an image, and you can push this directly to a system. Traditionally, when you don't use Docker, you would use something like Fabric or Ansible in the patternware to deploy. And what it does, it makes changes on your target system. It makes it there, and yeah, things like collect static and migrate. And with Docker, you can avoid this. You build this offline, and you just pull it there, or you push it to the target system. Especially with Docker, you can simplify the deployments. You don't do those types of builds on the hosts. And of course, you can do rollbacks in theory, but ideally you roll forward. So you have a problem and you fix this and you roll forward. You can roll back, but it's nicer to roll forward. It has usually less problems. Okay. Who of you came here because you are looking for a solution of this agile thing? Because in the end, agile is a pain. Everybody knows it. And I mean, I'm talking about business people. I'm generalizing. And yeah, we're looking for a replacement. We want those DevOps, don't we? So we want continuous delivery. It's really hyping. So when you're contacted regularly by recruiters, you may have noticed that the word of 2018 is DevOps. It's not even continuous delivery. I think this was at the end of last year. So who of you thinks that's fine, it's cool? So if any one of you does it, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Because it's agile and continuous delivery, that's one and the same. So agile is a concept. It's not a project management framework that a project manager can use to tell us what to do through a user story. It's a communication framework. It helps everyone to be more professional. And there is no such choice as, oh, well, we don't do agile. Because the whole industry is chaotic, Stone Age, and we have to move forward. And that's what is agile, what agile is for. And the Agile Manifesto says in it, right from the beginning, Agile Manifesto says there is continuous delivery baked in. What we want to do is continuously deliver. You cannot do Scrum if you can't do automatic deployment. Okay? You need to first have a build pipeline, basically. You need to deploy automatically, some way of automatic deployment at least. If you do all things manually, you won't be able to do agile. Okay? Because you can't prepare the Scrum, the sprint review. You can't, because you will struggle when you do things manually. There's not enough time for doing things manually when you do sprints and meetings every 2 weeks. So it's agile. Agile continuous delivery. So what do we take away from this? Why do we do it? It's to make better business. That's all. It's not primarily to move faster. It's actually, we can move faster because we are more confident that the things will work. Okay? So we do an experiment, we write some code, we push it, the tests pass, and it's out there. Cool, it works, just works. And when things are broken, because I forgot to write the correct test, I can fix this easily because it's all automated. And especially because I know those changes that they just work, they help me, I can invest in quality assurance. So there's no such thing as, can I write a test, please? I know it's expensive. You just do it because it works. Okay, and it's not, again, I say this for 3 years in a row, it's never the customer's fault. If they don't do what you want, what you think is right, you better explain why this is right. And this is an explanation. It's worth the time and the effort because it just works. And then, of course, you can release more often and you get a faster return of investment because you directly let the customer deploy. And they can decide when they deploy because they say, okay, I'll send out the email for marketing email or what, and then I press the button. They don't have to call you, ask you for that. And of course, you have no test manager, you have no release manager, and it's just all easier. Good, that's probably I think that's the last slide of my introduction. Yeah, that's the last one. I wanted to have this slide here because it says continuous deployment. And this is one term that is very popular. It's a popular misconception because Yeah, it's a popular misconception of a few bigger companies, kind of Amazon, AWS, and GitLab. So companies you know, and they say, well, continuous delivery is cool, but there is something that is even better. It's continuous deployment. You do this automatically in the end. But this is wrong, because we are comparing apples with bananas. Continuous delivery, like Agile, is a concept. So we have a concept that consists of concept patterns and applies techniques. And continuous deployment is a technique. It's not another concept. So when we do this automatically in the end, it's a cool thing. We apply another technique. We just add the techniques we have already, CI and so on. Okay? I'll leave this on for a second so you can read it through the rest. Okay, now we come to the beefy part. More than just servers. What else can we do? So to understand where I want to get, we have to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. So we need to understand, why did we do those things that we did to create continuous delivery, to make this pipeline? What did we do? What did we fix? What did we neglect first that created those problems, so that we had to figure out, or someone had to write a book to tell us what to do. And what we did was we fixed the deployment, because we did it at the end and we had no time. We had to move forward. We had to, move forward the delivery. What is it? The deployment in the end. We had to, the release date, because we didn't have enough time. We did the testing. It's a huge testing. We had a test phase, and we had chaos with the environment. And we fixed all that by just moving the things we usually do in a traditional setup. We moved this to the beginning. We moved the testing to the beginning. So we have no test phase, no cost for test phases and test managers and testers, even if they are off-site. And we have a production system from commit 1. Commit 1, from the first commit, we have a productive system that works with the first feature. That may be just little, but it works from the beginning. Okay. And so if you look at that here, we may notice there is some free place here on the left, on the right. On the right here, probably we would add the monitoring and so, of course, but I'm interested in that part here. And we can see that what we do is we actually neglecting here the development infrastructure. Who is using Vagrant? Right. Who is using Docker for development? Right. Everything else, everyone else uses what? Okay. Probably Vagrant or Docker. Or hopefully something compare it. Well, anyway. So when we have, even though we're using Docker or Vagrant, we probably have problems like the onboarding of new developers takes days or weeks. We have no tool parity across the machines. You may want to give the freedom to your developer, but if the freedom means that one installs AddSum because they find it too difficult to install PyCharm, that's not freedom. You're making the life harder. So, and when the PC doesn't work, so like mine here, I just want to wipe it and reinstall it because Ubuntu Bionic just came out. I can't do this because I would have to do backups and kind of whatever, to prepare, to make sure it will still work. And I would lose probably a day or two or a week of productivity. Okay, and then the best thing in bigger companies, you want to introduce a change, you want to do Docker now. You need a project. So you have to plan this in advance and you have to ask your CEO. It's a project that takes 6 months for doing a change that you could do in a single user story with 2 story points. Okay? Great. We do meetings. That's very productive. So that is what's wrong. It's practically the summary or so. Manual setup, what we now have. We have a work of art. We have, how do you set it up? You may have this in the wiki. You should install PyCharm like this and that, and download the certificate and do this here. And when you have errors, oh, just ignore that, it's fine. I mean, it always comes when you run Docker, it's fine. And yeah, and well, this is not in version control, but because this is, I send you this by email, okay? And then someone doesn't even tell you how they configure their machine because they use Vim, so no. No, it's really. And those are all things that, work of art. This is something that is in here. So it should not be work of art. That's what Jess Humble says. It's somewhere here. And you should lock down environments. Well, okay. You shouldn't touch your configuration of etc or so. You should touch your home directory. That's fine. That's why you can use site packages. You can install the Python packages with pip install ---- user. Okay? So the solution is practically, you can do this with, I've done this with Puppet, with a digital agency the year ago. I've redone this now for the demo in Ansible. You can script this. You can script this setup. This is step one. You do configuration management. So what the idea is, you treat your machine like a container. When you do a container, you want the database to be on a volume and so. And you want your source code when you develop on a volume. So you say, okay, my home directory is a volume. So I need to do a backup of this, but all the rest of the machine, I set it up. It's like a Docker image. So you don't do manual changes. You have to resist. It's like when you start writing tests. It feels unnatural. But when you resist in doing sudo apt get install Chromium plugin so and so, when you resist and instead you put this into an Ansible configuration and then you run it and then you see, oh, it works. And then you try to uninstall it and install it again and it works. And you commit it, you have the advantage that your colleague can take the same configuration and can just run it, and they have the same configuration. They also have the plugin installed for Google, for GNOME extensions, for example, and so on. So you do some scripting and you do some backup of the other data that would typically be too tedious to script, or things that you would back up because they're kind of on a volume. Okay, so I can do a quick demo. I don't have a lot of time. For the demo, I will run some software that I have on, let me just check. Oh, it's there. Ansible software. It's on GitHub, GitHub Painless Software, Ansible software. And just to show you that it does actually some things, I would just do some changes here. Oops. No, not this one. I just removed some things, stupid things, and okay, so I add the doc, I do this, I don't hide it, I have this here, I remove that. This, I do this because then you can see what happens. Okay, so now I have destroyed the system. I could do sudo rm -f -r/r, but well, then maybe the presentation wouldn't do anymore. And then I'll just go and run this here. So, okay, and then it asks me for the password because clearly some things need to be installed with root access. What is that? No, that's a demo. God is hating me. What is that? Incorrect password. Oh, I had the wrong password. It doesn't check that. There we go. I missed that secret password. It's so secret that I have trouble remembering. Because it's difficult to remember passwords, what I do for Django, I create an app that allows you to, when you do the logging with social login, social out, Django social out, then it promotes you to the super user through the Django settings. So you don't have to create a super user account ever. So then you don't need to worry about the passwords. And it's not even in the database. It's in, I think in Django Auto Admin have started with that. We're from Roberto Rosario, the repo. Good. I think we are here. You can see it has already hidden the thing and restored the stuff. Oh, yeah. And I could have removed some GNOME extensions. Then you would have seen it, would have restored that. Now it's downloading a VMware player. What is that new version? Probably. Oh, okay. But you get the idea. Okay? So we restored the thing. So, and then this is just the first step. I mean, it's very easy. It's just an Ansible playbook. I tried to put an inventory in it so you can add your own inventory. So you have this customized, and every one of your developers can customize the thing. And come on. All right. So the actual, then the solution would be, what we really want is, we want to have an environment that helps us to bootstrap the infrastructure management environment for a startup, for example. That was complicated. Okay, I boot up a system that helps me installing the infrastructure for managing the final infrastructure, okay? So that's what the other project is about that I will try to show you. So what we want is we automate the complete infrastructure. So what I want is, I don't want to install things, computers manually. I don't want to hire someone who deals with managing the infrastructures or getting the MacBooks installed, or I don't think nobody uses Windows, right? So I think 50% use it, still do. And so we want to automate this. And what the idea is, you create a server that allows you to boot from network, PXE boot, and then so you just run start a computer, attach it to the network. You say BIOS network boot, and then it boots, and the Debian installer starts installing Ubuntu. I love Ubuntu. Everybody who loves Ubuntu, and installs hopefully Unity, because GNOME Shell is horrible. And then it automatically runs the setup that we just solved with Ansible. Then it reboots, because it needs to reboot, because there's all of a sudden there's a graphical interface and a graphical server. You get the idea? So it needs to reboot, and then there is a login screen. And the good things comes at last. I don't even need to create the user, because I have the users all in a repository with the password certificates, well, in a private repository. And I have created a Active Directory replacement, which is called free IPA. So I can just go to my computer and log in with my credentials. Or I go to the computer of the colleague and I log in with my credentials. And that can work. And the thing is synced because we have a backup. Because we have a backup system created using libvirt on a virtual machine. And the whole front end graphical is called the Foreman. Those two are products from Red Hat. I don't know why Red Hat is everywhere, this conference, but I think it's okay. They do cool stuff, just that those two are still running on Python 2. It's kind of scary. But it's a Ruby also, so maybe that's the fault. Just kidding, really. But it's all really good technology. So you get the idea. So any questions? I think we have the game over. I could do the demo, and while the game is over, I just I start the system up, and it's the ground control. Yeah, it's actually just a Vagrant machine, because Vagrant up. because the two systems, they cannot yet run on Docker because they are too monolithic, and Red Hat is working on it. Thank you.
Any questions? No questions?
Thanks for the talk. I have a question related not necessarily to the development environment setup, but to CI/CD in general. So, with putting the deployment in the hands of the user, so I think there are some challenges, or at least like a bit of a more advanced solution is required when you do microservices or when you have multiple services that depend on each other. So how would you approach CI/CD then? Because then you want to deploy something only when another part is ready and the user doesn't necessarily know about which parts have to be there, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay. I understand the question. I'm trying to respond to that. The answer is, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, the answer is you're not going to ask your customer what to do, right? You're going to resolve that problem yourself. So it's the same. I'll make you an example. Today, some of us would go to the customer and ask, am I allowed to write a test? Okay, when you do this, you're never going to be agile. You're never going to do continuous delivery. So when you have this problem with microservices and dependencies, of course you need to resolve that yourself. But then you probably have to bootstrap a whole cluster and regenerate an appropriate copy of your production system where your client can actually test the thing. And what you then would do when there is the push button for the release is that you replace the complete infrastructure. You move that copy that you have as the review system online, and you take the other down with zero downtime deployment. So it is a challenge. I'm not saying it's all easy. It's really hard to do it right, but we are the professionals. We are now in Stone Age, and we need to advance. We need to fix those problems, not business.
Other questions? No. Okay. Thank you, everyone.